Help me hit 7,000 subscribers. Support the video with a like and share your thoughts in the comments. I read everyone. Thank you. I never imagined that a Thursday night could turn into the kind of nightmare you see in movies. I was at home, Marcus here, 35, sitting on the couch, scrolling through emails, trying to finish a long day of work. Evelyn had told me she'd be at a friend's birthday dinner. Nothing out of the ordinary, or so I thought. We had this unspoken rhythm. She went out, I stayed in, and we caught up later. It was comfortable, predictable, safe. But predictability is sometimes just the calm before a storm. Around 11:07 p.m., my phone buzzed. A message from Evelyn. I smiled faintly, expecting a short text, almost home, or had a great time. Instead, my stomach dropped when I saw the words, Marcus, I'm at the club with my ex. Come pick me up. For a second, I froze. I stared at the text, rereading it over and over as if the meaning would change if I looked hard enough. But it didn't. The message was clear. She was there willingly with someone from her past. My past, the version of her that used to love me unconditionally, felt like a distant memory at that moment. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. Part of me wanted to grab the keys and drive straight to the club, confront her, demand an explanation. Another part, the quieter, more rational part, told me to pause. Let her words sink in. Let her choice speak before I reacted. I started thinking about our marriage, how we got here. Evelyn, 33, brilliant, beautiful, magnetic. I fell in love with her because she was unapologetically herself. Marcus, have always been steady, reliable, the kind of guy who shows love through actions rather than words. I paid the bills, remembered birthdays, planned vacations, stayed loyal even when we had disagreements. And yet, here I was, reading that she was sitting somewhere else, laughing at someone else's jokes, someone else's charm. If you're following this story, don't forget to like and share. Let more people feel the intensity of moments like these. I decided to reply. I typed, deleted, typed again. My fingers hovered over the keyboard as my mind raced. What do you say when the person you trust more than anyone has chosen to put you second? Finally, I sent, do you want me to come? Seconds felt like hours. Then the reply came, yes, but don't make a scene. Just come. I swallowed hard. She wanted me there, but she didn't want confrontation. That alone said more than any argument could. The club was about 20 minutes away. I grabbed my jacket, my mind spinning, heart pounding, but a strange calm settling over me. Calm doesn't always mean peace. Sometimes it's the stillness before a decision that changes everything. As I drove, I replayed our last few months together. Evelyn had grown distant, subtle at first, almost imperceptible. Little delays in responses, slight irritation when I tried to talk about plans. The way she laughed less at my jokes, leaned into her phone more often. I told myself it was stress, work, nothing more. But deep down, a voice kept whispering, this is more than stress. When I pulled up outside the club, the neon lights reflecting off the wet pavement, my heart sank further. The bass from the music inside thumped through the walls and into the street. I saw her at the entrance, Evelyn, smiling, wearing that outfit I once couldn't stop complimenting, leaning against a familiar figure. Tall, with a grin that sent a chill down my spine. My ex had never mattered. He had never been part of my life, and yet suddenly, in that moment, he was front and center in the narrative of my marriage. I got out of the car and walked toward them, keeping my voice calm, steady, even as my hands shook. Evelyn, I said, just her name, letting it carry the weight of my confusion, hurt, and restrained anger. She turned, eyes widening for a brief second, and then, in that way that only someone who knows they've crossed a line can, tried to laugh it off. Marcus, hey, didn't expect you so soon, she said, voice light, almost careless. I looked at the man she was with, then back at Evelyn. I got your message, I said simply. No accusations, no dramatics. Just facts. Just presence. That was enough for now. We walked to the car in silence. The ride home was a contrast of emotions. Evelyn kept glancing at me, her usual charm faltering under the weight of unspoken guilt. I, on the other hand, replayed every moment of our relationship where I had given everything and received only shadows in return. Comment below with what you would have done in Marcus' position. Type your thoughts honestly, because this story is meant to spark real conversation. When we got home, the tension was palpable. I could feel it in the way she avoided my gaze, the way her fingers fidgeted with the strap of her bag. We entered the apartment, and I didn't say anything at first. Actions speak louder than words, and my silence was intentional. I wanted her to feel the space her choices had created, not through anger, but through consequence. As I unpacked my jacket, I finally spoke. "Evelyn, we need to talk. Not tonight, not like this, but soon. About us, about what's happening." She nodded faintly, eyes downcast. There was a quiet acknowledgement there, an admission of the tension she had ignored for too long. And yet, even in that stillness, I realized something crucial. Love isn't always loud. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it's silent. And sometimes, silence tells the truth louder than words ever could. Share your thoughts. Do you think Marcus should confront Evelyn now or wait? Comment below and discuss. Your perspective matters. The night dragged on, and Evelyn eventually went to the bedroom. I stayed in the living room, trying to calm my racing thoughts. I wasn't angry, not yet, but the sting of betrayal lingered. I thought about every laugh we had shared, every quiet evening, every small gesture I had made to show her I cared. And now, it all felt like a fragile illusion, a house of cards that had collapsed silently around me. Morning came, and with it, a clarity that I hadn't expected. I made coffee, sat by the window, and let the sunlight hit my face. That light was harsh, unflinching, just like the reality I had to face. Evelyn was asleep, oblivious to the storm she had stirred. But I wasn't thinking about revenge. I wasn't thinking about confrontation. I was thinking about myself, about my own dignity, and about the limits of what I could accept in a relationship. When she finally woke, she seemed hesitant, cautious even. She avoided my eyes, as if afraid of the judgment she might find there. I spoke calmly, letting my voice carry the weight of reason rather than rage. "Evelyn, we need to decide what this is, what we are. Because if this is where we are, I can't keep pretending that everything is okay." Her shoulders slumped, and she let out a quiet sigh. "Marcus, I don't know. I didn't mean to hurt you, but—" She trailed off, leaving the thought unfinished. And in that unfinished thought lay everything I needed to know. Relationships are made up of choices, repeated day after day. And in that moment, it was clear that Evelyn had made her choice, or at least, she had started down a path that didn't include me. I could stay silent, allow the erosion of my own self-respect, or I could take control of the narrative, reclaim my own space, and demand the respect I deserved. I took another deep breath and spoke again, more firmly this time. "Evelyn, I can't ignore what happened last night. I can't pretend this is something small. If we're going to move forward, there has to be honesty, commitment, and respect. If any of that is missing, then staying together is just delaying the inevitable." She nodded slowly, finally meeting my gaze. There was guilt there, yes, but also something else, fear. Fear of losing the person who had stood by her all these years. I had been loyal, patient, and present, but loyalty is not submission. Presence is not permission to be taken for granted. If you're feeling the intensity of this moment, hit like, comment with your opinion on what Marcus should do next, and subscribe for more stories that explore real human emotions and decisions. The next few days were tense. We spoke little, each of us navigating our own thoughts, our own regrets, our own realizations. Evelyn seemed aware that she had crossed a line, but awareness is only the first step. It doesn't erase choices or consequences. I kept my composure, responding when needed, but never bending to guilt or manipulation. Respect is not optional. Respect is earned, and it can't be demanded after it's been broken. I reflected on the broader picture, how easy it is to fall into routines, to take people for granted, to assume that love will persist without effort. And yet, the truth is clear. Relationships are fragile, and they require conscious attention, empathy, and accountability. A single text, a single night, a single decision can shift everything if the foundation is weak. When Evelyn finally asked why I had been so calm, why I hadn't shouted or stormed out, I told her honestly. Because being angry changes nothing. Being calm shows that I value myself enough not to lose my mind over someone else's poor choices. I need clarity, not chaos. That night we really talked. Not about the ex, not about blame, but about boundaries, expectations, and honesty. I laid my feelings bare, not to guilt her, but to demonstrate the depth of my commitment and the limits of my tolerance. We both cried at different points, moments of release for years of unspoken frustrations, disappointments, and fears. By the time the conversation ended, the air was lighter, though still heavy with unhealed scars. I realized something essential. The measure of love isn't in perfection or constant passion. It's in the recognition of mistakes, the courage to face them, and the willingness to rebuild or, when necessary, to walk away with dignity intact. I watched Evelyn sleep that night, her face calm, her breathing even, and I felt a quiet understanding settle over me. I had been tested, and I had chosen myself in a way that didn't scream vengeance or bitterness. I had chosen clarity, self-respect, and the preservation of my own emotional well-being. That choice, more than anything, was empowering. As I lay down beside her, I didn't know what the future would hold. But for the first time in a long time, I felt like I was no longer a passenger in my own life, drifting along with someone else's choices. I was the driver again, steering with intention, grounded in truth, and ready to face whatever came next. The text from last night, the shock, the betrayal, it had changed everything. But change isn't always destruction. Sometimes, it's the only way to create space for something stronger, something real. And in that quiet, reflective moment, I realized that the most powerful love is not the kind that clings blindly, but the kind that respects both oneself and the other enough to confront reality, no matter how painful.